thisville versus thatville. Sent them on home. Beat that Titan A. And Duval has now won 3 straight against the Tennessee Titans. Swept them last year and probably going to do it again. Let's just get it cranking on a Mocama Beer Company Monday. How good do it feel in Duval to have another win? And that was a bad football team they beat, so they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They beat up on them. Welcome in, Mocama Beer Company Monday. We have got the next 3 hours. We hope that you hang out with us. You can find us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search 1010XL, jump in the conversation there, or you can hit the pop-off line with a little mo on Mocama Beer Company Monday at 207-7071. We'd love to hear from you. How good does it feel to beat the Tennessee Titans, and are your Jaguars course-corrected the way you hope? You can hit the text line as well, 641-1010, text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. But, Leon, as we open it up, I mean, we're going to spend a bunch of time on this game, and then we're going to have to peek ahead because we've got a short work week. It is a pick-em game against the Houston Texans, so we'll get into that coming up. But that was a beatdown, and it was against a bad team. You called it a get-well game. Did they get well?
He did get well. I mean, they were very impressive. I mean, after that loss to San Francisco last week, this season could have went either way. They could have learned from their mistakes that they made for the 49ers and impressed upon their will on the Titans, or they could have went and slopped around and made it a game and could have ended up losing the game. But the Jaguars did the absolute opposite of that. They played well. They was efficient on offense. They did some of this. You know what? It's crazy to me. Some of the stuff that we talked about that they should be doing, it showed up in the game. I'm just looking.
It's almost like they were listening.
I'm just being the viewer, right? So I was talking about the offensive line. Said that, they're not maulers. They don't come at you well. But and I said, we need to get some stuff where the offensive line is pulling and trapping and moving and maneuvering. And wow, go figure. Some of the plays that they were running were stretch plays, toss plays, those kind of plays where those athletic offensive linemen were moving and maneuvering and making plays down the field. I mean, so I don't know. Hey, listen, maybe they do listen to what we say on XL Primetime. So because some of the stuff what we talked about, they did. We talked about Trevor. He had time with the protection to throw the third and fourth level plays to get the ball down the field. And some of the times when that wasn't there, he was hitting the intermediate passes and all that kind of stuff. So it was good to see the offense in rhythm. The defense did an outstanding job stopping Derrick Henry. The linebackers played phenomenal. Our 2 linebackers, they play absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Lloyd, from last year to where he is right now, he's hitting that hole. He's making those tackles. He had 11 tackles in the game. Back end of the defense played well. So, this was a good bounce-back game, and I'm glad to see that this team went in one direction instead of the other because they could have been in a situation where they let that loss against the 49ers linger, and it could have been a situation where we slopped around, but we didn't. Yeah.
And if you talk about ferocity and felines, that defense is starting to show it. Show its claws, show its teeth. They're a fiery bunch.
So I asked Foye Oluokun off the record, but I don't think he's going to really care too much if I say this because he said it and it's true. This time a season ago, because Devin Lloyd was getting acclimated and because Foye Oluokun is your Mike linebacker, that's the position he plays. That's the position he played in the latter part of his career in Atlanta. He wasn't asked to be a designated pass rusher. He didn't have the ability to go, or the opportunity, to go out and make plays like we have seen the last 2 weeks in particular, in which this man came into this season with 7 career sacks. He has 2.5 in the last 2 games.
He's a smart cat, and he's making plays now.
Correct. And so I asked him about it, and he just said, he was like, look, in the early stages of my career when Dan Quinn was my defensive coordinator, I was allowed to kind of, freelance, try different things, be a playmaker. But then Dan Quinn left, and also I was then assigned to be the Mike linebacker. And so all of a sudden you're told, okay, you got to go up the middle, you got to hold down the fort, you got to be the signal caller. No problem. But there's that itch. As a guy who played so many sports growing up, is athletic by nature, like he views himself as a positionless player. He doesn't view himself as, I am a Mike linebacker. That now, because Devin Lloyd has, gotten his sea legs under him, because now he is emerging and ascending, that is allowing Foye the opportunity to go out and make plays. And yeah, he said he wants that pick back. He woke up yesterday and said he felt like he was going to get a pick. Yeah. And it was unfortunate that he was probably one step a little late, but the forced fumble, the fumble recovery, the sack. If that's your anchor of your defense and he's doing what he's doing and you're seeing Lloyd opposite him making plays, that's when you know that this defense is starting to take steps that are sustainable.
Matt, when I don't know how far back we're going there, a few years ago, that Sam Darnold, as a New York Jet, came in to Duval, admitted that he was seeing ghosts. And everyone had a great time with it. They played ghost-like music on the stadium PA, so on and so forth. Will Levis, when he leaves here, I think he's going to see Jaguar ghost. He was terrible yesterday. Terrible.
Although he had a almost perfect passer rating.
Yeah. Terrible.
Numbers lie, folks.
To steal Matt's line. Terrible.
Yeah. I think the defense has played well all year. So that's not even an issue, I think, honestly. To me, what really stood out yesterday and what really should give every Jaguar fan in the city hope is that they schematically went after Calvin Ridley and he produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is, that's everything, man. He is your true one. So you got to get him involved. I don't care if he's struggling. I don't care if he runs a wrong route every now and then. You have got to schematically get him involved and force him to play. Yeah. And he was invested in that game yesterday. You saw it from the first catch all the way to the last catch. Yeah, so once he becomes a part schematically of what they're doing, the guy, I think that just opens everything else up, man. Right, you've got so many different weapons at that point.
Real quick on that front, because I think that this is the underlying what has been missing with this offense, and I want Leon to confirm this for me. When you stick with the run and it opens up play action, that is where 16 and 0 are at their best.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's that simple, is it not?
Yeah, once you commit to it and on the play action, because a lot of those throws, Coach Campo was talking about it in the fifth quarter. Those long crossers across the field that Trevor was making to him, it was outstanding. But it starts with the up front. It starts with the run ball, committing to the run, and then the protection on the rollouts. Man, Trevor was making some long balls, and he had time to make it as well.
Yeah, and he has not had that time before. And I tweeted it out as soon as it happened. Play action works, okay? Mm-hmm. Play action is real. And the one thing that is kind of, at least in this game, you think to yourself, they weren't getting off big runs, yet play action was able to work. Now, I'll remind everybody, Blaine Bishop was on XL Primetime last week and said the back end of that Titans defense is not good, that this football team should feast on that. So while I give them 100% of the credit, they definitely went up against a softer unit. Now, the other part of this, going back to what Matt said, is this as much as Calvin Ridley buying in, okay, where he's like, I got to put my full focus, man. I'm starting to slip just a little bit. I got to be focused on this. I've got to run my right routes. I've got to be able to bring the ball in. Or is it Press Taylor and Doug Peterson, Matt, saying we've got to get him involved?
I think it's a little both, obviously, but I think once you put it on a player, and Leon can speak to this, all week during practice, and you every single day you just stress it. We're coming to you. Mm-hmm. The game is going through you now. Yeah. Now it's all coming through you. Let's see what you got. Does that not?
Yeah,
you say it all the time about the offensive line. Same thing.
Well, I don't know the type of personality that Calvin Ridley has. I don't know the kind of communication him and Trevor have it throughout the week. But I know I played with two studs in Keenan and Jimmy. They were, and if Keenan and Jimmy saw weakness in the secondary, right? Keenan and Jimmy would go to Mark and say, "Hey, man, I need the ball. This guy can't cover me. This coverage can't cover me." And all through the week, they would have this communication, even on the sideline during the game. Hey, man, I'm beating this guy on this go route. I'm beating this guy on this cross. I'm beating this guy on this and that, whatever. They have a communication, and Mark said, okay, I got you. I get it to you. And that's the kind of communication you got to have between the quarterback and the wide receiver, especially if you're seeing flaws in the defense or in the secondary, and you can get a guy, go get him.
But as a player, if you're O-line, if Mazer came up to you and said, Leon, we're running right behind you this week.
Oh, yeah.
What does that do to you?
Oh, yeah. It juices me up. It fires me up, absolutely. Yeah. And especially if I know I'm handling, and if I might tell him it's coming this way. I'll leave that to Larry Allen. He can only do that guy.
Back to the Ridley part of this, because I think this also opened up opportunities for the run game. A big part of it, too, is the pre-snap motion. And we'll get into the Zay Jones component of it, too, because I know so many people have said that is the X factor, the fact that you have two guys that can stretch the field vertically, that opens stuff underneath for the Christian Kirks, the Evan Ingrams of the world. But you also have to give Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram for opening up stuff for Calvin and for Zay. Josh Norris of Underdog Fantasy did a great job of kind of breaking this down multiple times, including on the 2 touchdowns. Christian Kirk motions into stack alignments, and that gives Calvin Ridley a free release. Mm-hmm. What have we been complaining about for the last 3 weeks, Leon, that he can't get off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, man coverage, you can't get off.
He can't, and that's something that I know Coach Campos is excited to talk about tomorrow for sure, and I know he talked about it on the 5th quarter. So he's getting a free release, but also they're lining up Calvin Ridley in the slot, as opposed to, and look, I'll raise my hand and say it, I was hoping Calvin Ridley would be able to run a go route, run a vertical route, beat his guy one-on-one, and you could just, screw it, Jamar's down there somewhere.
Yeah.
That hasn't been happening, and so you need to come up with these creative ways, either inside or outside the numbers, to find him open space for him to operate. And so that's what you're seeing is they did go back into the lab and they got creative with where do we line him up. We don't just say, try to run downfield and beat double coverage.
And plus, it took a little bit of time for Trevor to settle in. The series before, a couple of those big plays where they were able to move it down the field, they walked to the sideline after a very poor pass by Trevor Lawrence on 3rd and 5. It was a terrible throw, and it looked like he was doing the same thing we were talking about before, Leon. That phantom pressure is not really there, and he just didn't look comfortable. Well, little by little, he started to get comfortable. You take a look at some of this stuff that they did as far as the way the game unfolded. You had a 21-yard catch by Christian Kirk to the 20-yard line. You had the Ridley reverse that went for about 20 yards from the 35, and then Zay Jones drawing the pass interference. Think of what that did. That flipped the field, okay? They went from their 35 to the Titans 35 almost. You want to talk about a big game changer right there. And then you can just start to add all these up. Even on the 4th and 4, remember this now, Doug Peterson, when he is a ballsy play caller, if it works, he's a superstar. They're 4th and 4 at their own 40. And he's like, stay on the field. And he got Trevor moving, dumps it off to Dearness Johnson, and he takes it inside the 10-yard line. Those are the plays we're expecting to see.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, we capitalized on some of the weaknesses that the Titans had to be dealing with all season long, and that was 3rd down. On 3rd down defensively, they give up plays. Yeah. Offsides, big plays, 1st downs, and all that kind of stuff. And it was just good to see the Jaguars capitalize on that because, we've had our issues on 3rd down as well. Sure. But we definitely made the most of it this past Sunday. So, yeah, it was just good to see this team against I don't know if they're really a rival anymore. They kind of, we're ascending and they're kind of, going down here. But it still feels good as the Titans and we beat them. Absolutely. That wasn't a good team. That was not a good team.
Oh, I know. You reached the point where you might have, felt sorry for them?
Hell no. Okay. All the misery and grief that they caused me over the past couple of decades, no, absolutely not.
All right, so if you want to hit the pop-off line, a little mo, you can dial it 207-7071. And I need some creative ones, and I would like to just put a little request out there because I try and do this every time the Jags beat the Titans. I've got this old booger-eating picture of Mike Vrabel that I send out on social media. And I say, suck it, Mike Vrabel. So if you don't mind, if you could include that in your pop-off, a little suck it, Mike Vrabel, because there's nothing better than beating the boys up in Nashville.
I know we want to get to the big game here in the Sunshine State in just a little bit, but I want to stick a pin in Mike Vrabel in particular because we had John Burton, our good buddy from News Channel 5 up in Nashville on yesterday, and in talking to on the famous Automotive Kickoff show, and in talking to some people around Nash Vegas, the smoke feels real of Vrabel being not just leaving Nashville and the Tennessee Titans, but potentially being traded. We haven't had a coach traded in quite some time.
Yeah,
so I want to stick a pin in that because I want to circle back to that in the 1 o'clock hour because I know we want to get to Florida State, the fallout from the weekend. Yeah, but we do want to talk about that because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, when I did the suck at Mike Vrabel, that I don't know how many more times I'm going to be able to do this. So I do relish that because there's only so much left. And when you just think about the Derrick Henry built Tennessee Titans, you are right, Leon. You are seeing the end of an era, and you actually had interchangeable pieces for a while, where you went from a Steve McNair, Eddie George, tough football team back in your day, and then they turned into Derrick Henry's tough football team, and that defensive front. Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, Tart, who should have 5 T's in his last name because he's so dang big, and then all the other guys. That's a tough front to be successful against, and Jacksonville definitely was successful.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating for Derrick Henry. He's second in the league as far as rushing goes, but he's playing behind a makeshift offensive line that really doesn't. Half the time, he's getting tackled in the backfield, by the time he gets the ball. I mean, but all the misery that he's caused us over the years, you're talking about a guy against the Jaguars alone who has, 1,300 yards rushing against us and 15 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
It's nuts.
And then I'm never going to forget the hip flip on the 99-yard run. I'm never going to forget that. Who was that?
Leon Jacobs.
Leon Jacobs.
He will never forget it
I'll
either.
never forget the hip flip. It was just amazing.